Well, this sucks.
It seems like he solved a problem.
Is this what they meant? Again, was this what they meant by the difficulty is the worst? You probably will not even be able to make theories. Because I can't theorize if it's just happening.
Do you think that's what it means?
No.
I'm curious.
Do I think that's what it means?
Yeah.
At this point, I would say yes.
Okay.
But there's still more to go.
Yeah.
Right? So...
What would the rest be if that was all there is to it?
I don't know. Sadako having a normal one?
Okay.
I think Sadako... Oh god, is Sadako gonna wind up dead?
That'd suck.
Ooh. Oh no. Because again, the way this turns back on her is her reputation as being the cursed child, right?
Could be.
Oh no. And we know one character in here has a predilection for some pretty gory torture stuff and taking that out on people who she thinks are in the orbit of her ex-boyfriend. Oh no. Would Shion blame Sadako for Satoshi being gone?
I don't know.
That's an interesting one. At first I thought it was a dream. And I'm back to regular voice now. I was staring at the strange sheet, not really understanding what it was. That was all. I didn't go after it, nor did I ridicule it. The fact was that the boring view was the ceiling of my own room, but I didn't realize that for a fairly long time. Yes. I thought I had been dreaming, but I had actually been staring at the ceiling the whole time. I also like the idea of his world now drained of color.
Mm.
I mean, it's just a short thing, but still. Lethargy induced by the voices of the cicadas. Even after I realized I was awake, I couldn't draw forth the energy to sit up. Everything I could see, everything I could hear, everything was like a television broadcast that had already ended. It was hot. So hot I could choke on the heat. My back was moist with night sweats, and it felt gross. Unable to endure it any longer, I tossed in my futon, and finally blood started coursing through my brain. I lazily recalled the long day I had yesterday. The reality as I lay here listening to the voices of the cicadas, and yesterday so different from it. In order to kill Sadako's uncle, I had rehearsed, formulated a plan, and dug a hole. It was very hot, and I was tired, wasn't I? And when evening came, I went to school and called him out on the phone. Panicked for a moment when he asked where the police station was, but it worked out. And then I awaited him and swooped down. Couldn't remember any more of what sort of emotions I'd let control my body. Now here's going to be the big thing for Keiichi. Don't go back to the scene of the crime. Just absolutely under no circumstances go back and check it. Just stop. That I think there's a chance, like we discussed this afterwards, there's a chance that he gets away with this. Maybe not in the sense that they don't know that he did it, but in the sense that he can't be held liable for it. As long as he keeps his mouth shut, sticks to his story, doesn't return to the scene of the crime and all that. Maybe he can... But if he breaks even a little bit, if he gives them even a little bit of an opportunity to give him that culpability, then it all falls apart. It was very hard to dig a hole for the body. That feel of the rain pelting down on me, I don't think I'll ever forget it. The rain, the mud, the sprays of blood, the sensation of floundering in a swamp. When I met Takano-san on the way home, that wasn't good no matter how I interpreted it. It was the most misfortunate and uncalculated thing that had happened that night. Everything would have been perfect if I only hadn't encountered her. Just riding my bike, a shovel in one hand through the downpour, utterly soaked. No way someone could surmise I was a murderer burying a body from just that information. Now that I was thinking calmly, napping under the morning sun, that's what I thought. Still, the more I think about Takano-san's eyes, it seemed like she understood. Takano-san. She knew that I'd killed someone, buried them, and that I'd been on my way home, exhausted, Takano-san wouldn't gain anything from selling me out to the police, but that didn't mean I could feel at ease. I should have killed her. I had crossed such a bridge to get my tranquil life back. I finally achieved it as a result, but now for the rest of my life, all the tranquil days starting today, I'd have to live in fear of when they could suddenly end. I may have twisted my ankle, dulled from total exhaustion. The fact that I couldn't make the snap judgment I needed to, regretted it more and more as time went on. You didn't have a choice, Keiichi Maebara. You didn't have any choice at the time. You were tired. You were a mess. Even if you had made the decision, you might not even have been able to kill her. She might have just beaten you instead. In that sense, parting ways uneventfully could have been the safer option. No matter how sharp Takano-san's intuition was, she had no proof. Her suspecting me didn't amount to evidence by itself. Logically, I know that, but that doesn't mean I have nothing to worry about, does it? Just worry about it when the time comes. Now isn't the time to be worrying. It's the time to be smiling, right? Listen, it's the Happy Times theme. You accomplished so much just to gain a new life starting today, didn't you? Then you should be happy at this new morning. If remembering the past is too hard for you, then just consider everything up to yesterday as having never happened. You said so yourself. You'd bury it all like it never happened. Well, your wish came true. Everything before yesterday never happened. So be happy, Keiichi Maebara. Yay! I stuck up my hands lazily. Felt a little silly for me to be the one doing it. I heaved a sigh from deep in my belly. That sigh got my lungs moving. Felt like I hadn't been breathing until just now. Wasn't enough to admonish myself over. All the dice that could be thrown already had been. The numbers that turned up weren't bad at all. If I lost with those numbers, then I'd just have to give up, I guess. I grabbed the chest of my pajamas and flapped it back and forth. Cool air flowed over my sweating body. Okay, nothing before yesterday happened. Nothing. Nothing at all. I'd forget it all. Yesterday was all a dream. What time was it? About midday? Getting myself up and going to school this late seemed kind of absurd, but I needed to go. Felt like going to school would be the first step into my peaceful new life. I didn't care how late it was, I would go. I'd go to school right now and get back to the life I'd retaken as soon as I could. My lazy body immediately became lighter at the thought. I rolled up out of the futon, bounced onto my knees, then leapt upright. Nice! Stuck the landing! Ho-ho! I stuck up my chest with pride at my gymnast-like pose, then took a deep breath of fresh air. The brisk morning air had been gone for a while, replaced by the crisp air of summer. Downstairs, I got a stern talking to by my mother. Where were you last night? When'd you get back? You need to tell me when you won't be home for dinner. Things like that. But considering the importance of what I accomplished yesterday, a little scolding was no problem. In fact, it even felt like the sort of thing that would happen in such a peaceful life. I listened with an irresponsible smile and stepped out into the sun, high overhead. It was around the time lunch break would be ending. Everyone would probably be worrying about me. If I didn't go to the festival and now I wasn't at school, maybe they weren't too worried about it. Since they would have gotten a small piece of news, but a happy one, from Sadako today. A small piece of news that her uncle hadn't come home last night. Sadako would probably live her days in nervous tension for a while, thinking he might still come home, but eventually those days would end. And finally Sadako too would realize her uncle was never coming back. And then Rika-chan would quietly invite her. She would say, "You can live with me again." And everything would be back to normal. Our lives would go back to how they were before that man appeared. Sadako would start wearing that extraordinary smile, complete with those protruding canines, and fool everyone with those traps she was so proud of. I'd probably be her first target out of everyone, but I wouldn't be mad. In fact, I might actually shed tears of joy at the return of something so normal. Sadako, she would gradually grow back into that meddlesome personality of hers. I mean, my lack of useful life skills was already completely exposed. Wonder if I'd ever be a match for Sadako. That would be such a pleasant thing to see too. And with such warm, fuzzy predictions, I didn't feel bad for going to school so late. In fact, I wanted to run there now to get there as soon as I could. Instead, I decided to savor the peacefulness of just going to school like normal without running. The world I'd obtained for myself. That gave me joy just by walking like this. Yes, the world beginning on this very day was something I had won. With that monumental feat yesterday, I would never have been able to come to school so cheerfully today. The school gate came into sight. Just then I heard the principal ringing the bell to mark the end of lunch break. It was a clear, refreshing sound. I stopped despite myself and let myself take it in. Tap, tap. I had stopped suddenly. There was an extra footstep. With the noise, the blessedness I was feeling throughout my whole body withdrew into any pore it could find. And as if to replace it, I felt like hundreds of hairy caterpillars were climbing up my feet. I turned back, but of course no one was there. A single footstep could easily have been my imagination, but that footstep felt so ominous. This is another thing I talked about after the last episode ended between us.
Yeah?
Yeah, people getting handed the, oh god, I feel like someone's following me. I'm hearing sounds I shouldn't be hearing ball. The one constant in all those scenarios appears to be Takano Mio.
How would that work?
What do you mean, how would that work?
Yeah, why would that be?
I don't know. Like, it's been speculated that maybe there's a drug that just that heightens your awareness and such. And like, so not like necessarily making stuff up whole cloth, but making you much more susceptible to hearing and interpreting noises you wouldn't normally regard.
And lasts for several days.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that like I still don't know how the re-up thing would happen, but the one constant in those scenarios has always been Takano Mio. Keiichi went to see her at the nurse's office and at the not the nurse's office, but at the nurse in chapter 1. Shion was around Takano for that whole scary time story thing, and Keiichi ran into Mio just last night before he started having these sensations again. And conveniently let himself fall asleep in her car at one point. I don't know what that means, but she appears to be the constant, so...
Takano is a medium who can summon ghosts to haunt you at will.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. That extra footstep I'd heard after seeing Takano sawn off last night. With everything that happened on that insane night, I didn't mind something like that happening once. It'd been a hell of a night after all. In fact, having just one hallucination was pretty fortunate. But those footsteps should have ended with yesterday, so if I heard them again today, there was really only one thing it could have meant. Last night still wasn't over. It was still going. Still. That insane night forever. The step I heard, that just one extra footstep, was quietly ridiculing the nonsensical notion that the world starting today was completely different from the one that ended yesterday. My classmates playing in the schoolyard all vanished inside like the tide going out. When I approached the school, it felt like that warm, fuzzy scene had ended, and it didn't feel good. The entrance, I took a quick look in everyone's shoeboxes. Sadako Hojo, she was here. Mion was here too, and Rena, of course. Even Rika-chan was here. Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun were here. In fact, I didn't see any missing classmates. There were shoes missing, they would have to be my own. Took my shoes off and stuck them in, and took out some slippers. Wasn't a single pair left in the shoeboxes anymore. With that, they returned to their rightful state. But as I stepped up onto the wooden floor, I noticed there was just one pair of slippers left. Wait, huh? Whose? Satoshi Hojo. Satoshi, who had never been to school since disappearing last year. Until now, he committed the exact same act of violence, but I guess at the very end, it went differently. You couldn't make it to school, but here I am. I didn't repeat the same mistake you made. I wasn't just about to let myself feel superior about that. In fact, I felt an odd sense of familiarity with him. A misfortunate bond with someone I'd never met due to following the same fate. I headed down the hallway towards the usual classroom. Felt like it had been a whole year since coming here. Hey, did you forget Keiichi Maebara? Satoshi Hojo didn't really disappear on the night of the Watanagashi, did he? Satoshi Hojo disappeared a few days later. On Sadako's birthday, if I was right. I didn't know what day it was, but I couldn't say for sure I'd avoided his failure, unless I remained here past that day. I was still living in that night of insanity. Teacher still hadn't come to the classroom. The other door clattered open, the one the teacher wouldn't use, so everyone turned at once to see who had arrived. Everyone looked pretty vacant. Suppose I'll greet them. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do thank you for coming all the way out here today. Ho-ho-ho! Silence. When I started to think I'd fallen flat, someone finally started laughing for me.
Good morning, Kei-chan. You're pretty energetic today. Yeah, energetic. Maybe you haven't gotten out of the festive mood yet.
Hearing Mion and Rena's cheerful voices made me realize how dumb those dark feelings I'd been having at the entrance really were. Hey now, festive mood? I wasn't at the festival all, remember? Before I could say that, Rika-chan smiled at me.
Keiichi, did you make sure to watch my dance? Yep, he saw it just fine. Didn't you see how big an applause he gave you?
They all know and they're covering for him. They're like, yeah, we'll go to bat for you, Keiichi. You haven't been subtle about what you're doing. We'll...
Remember that whole thing at the beginning where Keiichi's asking Mion to kill what's his name?
Yep.
And it's like, I don't even care if you're a murderer. That shit doesn't bother me at all. Ride or die, ride or die.
Yep. And he ignored it when that troublemaker... Oh, that's Mion.
And he ignored it when that troublemaker Shion came up and made a pass at him. Take that, Shion. Wow, that felt good.
Mion starts laughing at the memory as she slaps me a few times on the back.
So, how did that target practice turn out in the end? Oh.
So how'd that target practice contest turn out in the end? Tomita-kun was facing me and talking. There was no one behind me. That meant he was talking to me?
Tomitake turned up dead last. Everyone had a good time with his punishment game. Sorry, can I reread that?
Yeah.
Tomitake turned up dead last. Everyone had a good time with his punishment game. Yeah, how are we feeling?
I like the sleigh bell jingle. Is it sleigh bell? What kind of...
I don't know the name for them. Weren't you supposed to be the one in last place, Rika-chan? It was such a turnaround when you pulled off getting that chewing gum. I should have expected that from a member of my club. It was fantastic.
Crying at a time like that is a feat only Furude would be allowed to do, said Okamura-kun, breathing heavily from his nose. In my direction, everyone laughed, but if anyone but Rika-chan had done it, it would have been against the rules. Rika-chan gave one of her
Nipa
smiles as she listened to it. In my direction. Rena too turned towards me, and with a somewhat embarrassed smile, she whispered to me so only I could hear.
But really, thanks, Keiichi-kun.
For what?
That giant stuffed animal. I was really happy. It's nice and safe right at my bedside. And I made sure to give it a good night kiss before bed, too. What's up?
What's up? What's up is I need to reevaluate everything in Chapter 1 now.
Why? Why do you need to reevaluate everything in Chapter 1?
Because what they're saying right now, their cover story covering for Keiichi, is exactly the events of Chapter 1. Was what happened in Chapter 1 just us seeing the cover story?
That'd be weird. How would that work out?
Yeah, how would that work out with...
'Cause we see a lot of other things in Chapter 1. Not just a Watanagashi.
Yeah,
Sure is convenient that it lines up, huh?
Yeah. Hold on, I just need to real quick reconvince myself that the events of each chapter are mutually exclusive. I just real quick got to make sure that every single chapter is mutually exclusive from one another,
Different
and that
people
we're not
die.
just somehow experiencing like a vertical slice of events from each.
Different people die.
Yeah, different people die.
Kind of final. Hard to
Yep,
get around.
hard to get around that. Okay.
Unless they don't die.
Ah!
Ah.
The class laughed at that, cheering and jeering. This whole time, the conversation had been a little bit off. I wasn't quite getting it. What's this about a stuffed animal?
What's this? Come on. We all worked really hard at the festival yesterday to get it down, remember? The gigantic stuffed animal. The gigantic stuffed animal.
Rena seemed taken aback, but when she answered, she did it with a smile.
We were having a hard time knocking it over, so we tried aiming at the forehead and rapid-fire shooting and stuff. And then, Keiichi-kun, you got a whole bunch of guns ready beforehand and shot them all. It was so cool. Ah.
Wait, who was this?
All the people in the neighborhood association, including the chairman, were praising you so much at the party afterwards. One of them said he'd fallen in love with your way with words. Tokuzo Kimiyoshi, the chairman of the children's committee, I think.
Tokuzo Kimiyoshi. Is that the mayor's name? No. But that's related to the mayor.
Yeah, it's the family, but not the same dude.
And not his daughter. Okay.
He said he wanted to entrust you with a few of the stalls at the next festival. Tokuzo is the chair of the refreshment booths. He's on the festival executive committee.
Why is everyone immediately covering for him? I mean, like, I knew he was obvious. We were joking about it, but... And also, Sadako is here, but where is she? Why hasn't she spoken up?
I know, right?
Okay. This isn't everyone just kind of coming to their own conclusion to do this. Because Keiichi's going to play it off in a moment or two here, as everyone in Hinamizawa being so tight-knit that they're on the same wavelength and don't have to even discuss it. This cover story came down by fiat from either Mion or Shion.
Just real quick calling every family in town and being like, hey, so... someone did a little murder, but it's cool. It has my okay. Here's what we're all gonna say.
Honestly? Yes.
Yeah?
We know she can and will call up the entire town and get them to do what she needs to do.
Fair, we have witnessed that.
Huh.
Maebara...
Oh.
Is that Okamura?
I think, yeah. Maebara-san is great at making things sound good, isn't he?
Yep. Whenever he talks about something, it seems a lot better than it actually is.
You can't say that.
Keiichi-kun, you'd make a great salesman. I bet you'd do great auctioning off overripe bananas or something.
What are you even talking about? I mean, I didn't go to the festival in the first place. I swallowed those words. I didn't know exactly why, but in Hinamizawa, this is what had happened. Yesterday, during the Watanagashi festival, Keiichi Maebara had appeared. He'd romped about with all the usual members of his club. He made a big scene at a few of the stalls, snatched a few sticks of takoyaki and okonomiyaki in his glee, rating each of them as delicious or terrible to get everyone excited. And then they seen a gigantic stuffed animal at the target practice game, and everyone went after it. Got a whole bunch of the cork guns, firing them in rapid succession, throwing each one away after using it. And admirably, I shot down the biggest stuffed animal there. And then I gave the stuffed animal the proof of my victory to Rena as a gift. Then our fun came to a close when we had to go see Rika-chan's offeratory dance. There's a ton of people squeezed in there, and we all got separated, but we each managed to get into good positions to cheer Rika-chan on from. And then in the middle, when Shion came up and asked me to go hang out with her instead of watching the dedication dance, I refused, and stayed put watching the dance until the very end. But who? Who was that? Well, everyone's been saying it, haven't they? It's Keiichi Maebara. I had an urge to yell in anger at my classmates for having so much fun talking about the festival yesterday with Keiichi Maebara. What the hell are you guys even talking about? Far stronger than that feeling, though, was the sheer uncanny nature of this reality I couldn't understand. A Keiichi Maebara who wasn't me was in Hinamizawa yesterday. I threw away my humanity, turned into a demon, who was busy beating Sadako's uncle to death. I was having a great time at the festival last night. What the hell? I had to suffer through so much, desperately holding back tears, getting so worn out in that downpour, digging holes, chasing, beating, killing, dragging, and burying. Who was this Keiichi Maebara who had ignored me so and spent such a fun, carefree time at the festival, damn it? Who the hell stood in for me as I put my life on the line, working so hard to achieve this treasure-like everyday life? If there was another Keiichi Maebara besides me, then what was I? On the night of the Watanagashi, where one died and one disappeared, in accordance with Oishiro-sama's curse, there was only a demon who had killed someone. Dumbfounded as I succumbed to a horrifying possibility, I looked around at my classmates to make sure there was no one extra I didn't recognize among them. To make sure that I wasn't among them. It was a horrifying thought. The real Keiichi Maebara hadn't overslept and had come to school on time, and that I, who was no longer Keiichi Maebara, had just waltzed in here. But no matter how much I checked, the only people here were ones I knew. The man I met every time I looked in a bathroom mirror was not here. All right, everyone. Time to start afternoon classes. Please take your seats. President, please lead the class.
Oh, damn. I should have had the rest of my curry to prepare. I forgot curry teacher would show up.
Who did you say she was based off of again?
I forget. Was it somebody from Tsukihime?
That's what, because I'm playing the Tsukihime remake right now.
Yeah.
Just to cut it off at the pass, that won't be appearing on the channel, the remake anyway, because it has a rider in the beginning that's saying you can't make videos of it, so. But, is she based off of, the blue-headed one?
The blue net is Seal, is
Seal, yes.
I think that sounds like it might be the case.
Because Seal, she's a student, but she keeps giving me advice when I get bad endings.
Oh, I finally had a proper Japanese katsu curry. Teach was right. Teach was right. Yeah, this is important. This is very important. I had to meet some coworkers in person, and they took me out to a fancy izakaya. In other news, I learned that we have izakayas in the United States, apparently, and I got the largest and most deluxe curry that they would sell me, and it was fantastic.
Nice.
And I got uji kintoki, the dessert that Rika mentions liking better in like chapter 1.
Yeah.
The shaved ice with the green tea flavoring and mochi and stuff like that in it. It was really good.
Nice.
Anyway, curry teacher is correct. Japanese curry is actually fantastic.
Can I add one thought in before we move along?
Yes.
I don't know what to make of the fact that their cover story are exactly the events that happened in chapter 1.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's
not
convenient.
just a random cover story, it's literally what happened if Keiichi shows up. I'm just gonna percolate on that one for a while. Upon finding me, who was stupidly late, she gave me a stern talking to, but I wasn't listening to it. Wasn't our old life supposed to start today? Something wasn't right, it was just strange. I was supposed to go back to my old fun life after yesterday, and set foot in an incomparably mysterious world that was completely different from both my old life and my recent one.
But have you, Kay? You showed up and everything was perfectly normal.
Yeah, that's what you wanted.
Isn't that what you wanted? Isn't this better? Isn't this better?
Don't you feel better?
Don't you feel better?
This was without a doubt a different world than the one I'd been living in until now. There was no way such an absurd thing could be possible. But unless it was true, I couldn't explain anything that had just happened. In this classroom, I was surrounded by so many faces I knew, and yet I felt isolated. The cicadas sounded no different than they had been before now, but they seemed somehow false. The air was parched and dry too, making me think, was the air in Hinamizawa always this uncomfortable? Hey, Rena.
What is it? We're in class.
About the festival yesterday. About when would you say I got there?
Huh?
To be honest, I was pretty excited afterwards and I gobbled down some cans of beer. Kind of embarrassing, but I don't quite remember some things. From random babbling, it wasn't a bad excuse.
Keiichi-kun, you said you couldn't come at first, didn't you? You called Mi-chan's house about it, right?
That matched. I called Miona and told her to take Sadako in my place since I wouldn't be able to meet up with them due to things I had to do.
We all decided while we were setting up for the festival that we'd invite Sadako-chan. We wanted to bring her out someplace where she couldn't see her uncle for a little while.
That was the same as well. Mion said that when I called her. That everyone had already decided to invite her.
And then we all went. Me, Mi-chan, and Rika-chan to Sadako-chan's house and brought her out. Sadako-chan's uncle seems like a really mean person.
That part didn't matter. What I was trying to ask was, when did I meet up with you?
How could you forget that? Keiichi-kun, this is why I said to get a good night's sleep before the festival.
Whatever, when did I meet up with you?
Well...
At my sudden threatening demand, Rena was at a loss for words. I shouldn't have rushed that. Told her I was sorry.
It was at the shrine grounds. It was unexpected. You were talking to Rika-chan, weren't you? Yep, you were having a fun talk with Rika-chan in her shrine maiden outfit. And then Rena came up and said, I'm taking you home.
I was talking to Rika-chan.
And I asked, Kei-chan, didn't you have something to do today? And then you pounded your chest and said it yourself. That letting loose at a festival was more important than some silly errand.
Did she ask him that in chapter 1? Specifically, didn't you have something to do today?
I don't know.
I didn't say that. I never said anything like that. I never even went to the shrine grounds yesterday to begin with. Never had the time to stop by a place like that. I went to dig the hole as soon as I woke up. Had a pretty hard time doing it. After that, I snuck into the school and made a call. Called him out and laid in wait. And then it started raining really hard. With that kind of downpour, the festival should have come to a halt. In other words, it ended then. From the time the festival started to when it ended, would have been impossible for me to have swung by the shrine grounds. I was already there when Mio and the others dragged Sadako out and brought her to the shrine, and I was talking to Rika-chan. Then where would Rika-chan say we met? The teacher went out to wash her hands, so I ran over to Rika-chan's desk and asked her directly.
With you?
Yeah, we were talking to each other before Mio and the others got there, right? When did we see each other? When and where?
I don't know what you're trying to ask.
You know, yesterday I really didn't get enough sleep and my head's a bit fuzzy. I don't remember a thing. It looked like Rika-chan bought into my babbling.
We saw each other when the mayor and the others came out of the assembly hall. You were in front of the Ritual Implement Storehouse.
Huh? What? Ritual Implement Storehouse, huh? Never heard a building called that before. Maybe I have, but at the very least I wouldn't know where in the shrine grounds it was.
The mayor got real angry at you since you shouldn't go near holy places without authority, remember? Keiichi, did you forget that too?
I was too scared to ask anymore. The more I asked, the more it became clear without any doubt that Keiichi Maebara was present at the Furude Shrine grounds during the Watanagashi festival. The clearer that became, the more doubts, no fears I had. Who on earth was I yesterday? Whoever that was, he had a good time in my place, and I managed to go the entire day without letting them notice I wasn't there. Right, when did that person leave everyone? This morning, my mother got mad at me for having stayed out so late last night, which meant at the very least that Keiichi Maebara hadn't come home while my mother was still awake. the festival would have been closed off because of the downpour. If I recall right, when I went back to the house's storage room to get another shovel, I think the clock said 7. Since it was already raining hard by then, the festival would have had to close down before then. If I returned that early, it would have definitely run into my parents. At the very least, they wouldn't have asked me when I got back last night. So the Keiichi Maebara yet from yesterday meant he never went home. That meant the downpour happened, the festival was broken up, everyone left. But he didn't go back to the house. And that means, when I arrived at the natural conclusion, a wicked chill suddenly froze my spine and climbed up to my brain. That meant Keiichi Maebara was the same as Satoshi. One day he never went home. On the night of Watanagashi, he never went home. This is a whole lot of mental hoops to jump through from realizing that suddenly your friends will just ride or die for you if you kill Sadako's uncle. Way to talk yourself out of the win.
Higurashi Chapter 3, when Keiichi realizes he could just ask his friends, hey, do you mind if I kill this dude? And they'd be like, nah, man.
Nah, we're good.
Go for it.
But Sadako is here at school and we still haven't seen her yet.
We haven't.
What the hell? The downpour interrupted the festival, and on the way home, he suddenly disappeared. And I, who was dealing with the corpse, went home without a problem. I was so tired I wasn't even hungry, so I went up to my room without a sound and crawled into my futon. Who was I? That much was obvious. I was Keiichi Maebara. Keiichi Maebara was me. May have been another one, but that doesn't negate the fact that I was Keiichi Maebara. And then that other Keiichi Maebara was what? The voices of the cicadas steadily filling the classroom were beginning to bother me. Suddenly I laid eyes on Sadako. Sadako's expression was dark as always. She seemed completely exhausted at a life of agony she couldn't even imagine an ending to. What had last night been like for Sadako? Did she have fun with everyone and feel a little happier, if even for a moment? And when she went home, the end of her dream, she'd probably gone to sleep afraid of when her uncle would return. And then this morning, her uncle hadn't come home. And then she went to school. Right now she must have still been trapped by the rotten idea from which she couldn't be saved, that her uncle would need her when she got back. But you can rest easy, Sadako. Your uncle won't ever be coming back. I couldn't tell her it was because I'd killed him. But when Sadako realized on her own that her uncle would never return, then that would truly be the end of the long, insane night. That's right, I didn't do anything wrong. I did the best possible thing I could have as Sadako's Nini. Not an atom in my body regretted it. And look, calm down and think, Keiichi Maebara. From a certain point of view, isn't it convenient that there was another Keiichi Maebara? I buried the corpse perfectly. A beginning wouldn't happen. But if worst came to worst and it got out, and the investigation got to me, I now had a strong alibi. I was able to profess the fact that I'd been at the Watanagashi festival. But accepting something so creepy and using it as an alibi, still, if I proved I hadn't gone to the festival yesterday, it would do no good and a whole lot of harm. That was what left the really, actually bad aftertaste. You'll forget about it, Keiichi Maebara. Everything that happened before today. So just forget about the Keiichi Maebara who was there yesterday too. Instead, let's watch gently over Sadako for the day her smile returns. And the day that would mark the end of that insane, all too long night. That's all for today, class. Please go straight back to your homes, everyone. President, if you would.
Everybody stand up. At attention. Bow.
Goodbye. I thought about many things and saw my thoughts dispersed by many other things. I didn't know whether or not that time had been spent worrying or daydreaming, but either way it came to an end along with the class. Cheerfully, our classmates got their things and ran for the hallway. Mion, Rena, and Rika-chan were packing up as well. And what about Sadako? This whole day she seemed deflated. Well, her uncle made out of return last night, but she wouldn't have known he'd never return. How much I wanted to express that fact to her. Sadako packed up her pencil box and math workbook messily, and after a dark glance at the clock, heaved a sigh, then went to leave the classroom. And then suddenly someone placed a hand on her shoulder and stopped her.
what is it? I watered the plants like I was supposed to, and I got all the printouts done, so...
Her words, possessed by a persecution complex, hurt. I spoke loudly so everyone could hear. Hey everyone, why don't we have club today? It's been a while. Sadako always had to tend to her uncle, so club has been on hiatus. In our minds, our club was proof of a calm, peaceful life. By enjoying being together, I wanted to make Sadako realize her days of darkness were over. What'd you get? Well, sorry about that.
The mailman delivered a graduate diploma in the middle of recording. Higurashi.
Congratulations on graduating. I mean, you already did graduate, but congratulations on the two-peat.
Anyway. Meep. Well, I mean, I don't mind if it's okay with Sadako.
Under a condition. That was important. With everything up to her, Sadako gave a worried look. Oh, come on, Sadako. It's been a long time. Let's go crazy.
Well, I'm happy you feel that way, but,
My uncle might already be home. Thus spoke her darkened eyes, her mouth unmoving. You've been choking on life every day for a while. You must be about to suffocate. It's not good for your mind or body. Once in a while, you gotta have some fun.
please, just leave it alone. It's not like I don't want to do club again.
With one word, but... She looked down. Sadako, you know as well as anyone, it's more fun being with everyone, right? We're friends. Means we can spend time with one another. I mean, you had a great time at the festival yesterday with everyone, didn't you? Rena nearly said something, but she was too late. Did she not go to the festival? That's what's different?
Keiichi-san, what are you saying?
My arm on her shoulder seemed to weigh her down, and she threw it off.
When exactly was I playing and having fun at the festival? One having fun was you, Keiichi-san.
Huh? Looked over to Mion for help, but now everyone was looking down. My instincts told me Sadako hadn't gone to the festival after all, but Rena said it herself, that she went with Mion to Sadako's house to invite her.
Sadako-chan left on the way there. She didn't go to the shrine.
Why? That was the absurdity of what I just said with Sadako in front of me.
She said her uncle was waiting at home and she couldn't have fun by herself when we were in front of the shrine. We tried to stop her too. We told her her uncle said it was okay and that he wouldn't get mad if she had a good time.
At some point, tears had begun welling up in Sadako's eyes. She was so afraid of her uncle that she couldn't even allow herself time with her friends and went home. Yes, that's why tears are welling up in her eyes right now. That is exactly the reason. She was even afraid of letting herself have a good time with her friends. Again, that is the reason.
Keiichi-san must have had it nice. Having a blast at the festival all night. They told me you went all out, didn't you? I'm very envious.
Smiling to herself, her tears began to fall.
I must provide for my uncle. It's completely different from you with how you let your parents let you do everything.
Sadako,
I'm so glad you enjoyed yourself at the festival. I'm so glad you had enough fun for me, too. I mean, I want to participate in the club. Making such a rack with everyone is so much fun. But right now, I can't. I can't do it.
Unable to withstand such violent emotion, a few teardrops slid down her cheek. Even though she was having such a terrible time, not once did she ever say it was hard for her. It was a sad, obstinate bravery. But the days when Sadako had to feel like that were over. Sadako didn't need to endure it. She didn't need to bear it anymore. She could forget all about it now and smile. I was so frustrated at not being able to tell her that directly. Instead, I said something that I'm not sure I should have said before I thought twice about it. He didn't come home, did he? The words were deeply meaningful to me, but I don't know if Sadako understood them.
didn't come home? Oh!
He didn't come home last night, did he? Your uncle?
What are you talking about, Keiichi-san?
Sadako shouted with all her might.
When has he not been there? When?
Calm down. I mean, he didn't come home yesterday, did he?
I don't understand what you're trying to say, Keiichi-san.
Sadako, what are you talking about? I mean, that man. I killed him. I killed him yesterday. I killed him for sure, and I buried him. Buried him whole. He could never have returned to his house. What the fuck? Okay.
What's up?
I'm beginning to see why I can't make any theories here. What the fuck?
So who's buried out in the forest?
So Keiichi was convinced that he saw Sadako's uncle on the bike. And did he just hallucinate then? He's talking about how fortunately there was only one hallucination he had yesterday. So did he just completely kill the wrong person? I was talking about that up front, but it seemed like he did the diligence of double checking that it was him. Did he just kill the first person he saw on a motorbike and that was it?
That'd be messed up.
What the fuck, Keiichi? Then why is everyone covering for him? What the fuck? But if that's the case, yeah, so if that is the case, then why is everyone... But he went out. The police were saying it over the radio.
They sure did.
So what the fuck? So what the fuck? I feel like I'm going crazy now. Oh, this sucks.
Well, maybe
If I had to describe the difficulty of this, I'd say it's the worst. I'm not sure I can even make theories. Then again, Sadako has never been this direct about her uncle. She has never once looked like this when her uncle... Right? She always bravely deals with it.
or has a incoherent meltdown, as we witnessed.
Or has an incoherent meltdown. This is the first time Keiichi has asked her specifically about it,
That's true.
but... Huh. Is today a hallucination, then?
The agony of knowing that hallucinations of large portions of events are definitely in play, but not knowing yet which things we should worry about, whether they are or aren't.
Oh, this is awful. Okay. All right.
He yelled at me. He shouted at me. He found fault with everything I did. Through the dinner, I made him on the floor. He dumped his bowl of miso soup on me, too. It was hot. It was messy. I cleaned all of it up. I cleaned all of it.
What? Our stories weren't matching up. Mion gave him the hallucinogen drug yesterday or something. Not Mion, Mio. When they parted and Keiichi is still napping? What the fuck? The thing is, like, I can't even, like... even if we accept hallucinations, so much of it has to be thrown out that it's not satisfying. So what the hell? What the hell? Right?
This morning, when he woke me up to make a breakfast, he got so mad at me. Would have gotten mad at me whenever I'd gotten up or not.
Yeah, this doesn't sound like Sadako.
Hmm.
This doesn't match how Sadako talks about her uncle. So something is wrong in this scene. Either that, or Sadako has hallucinations of her uncle, even when he's not there. I feel like that's the minimal hallucination case right now.
What if everybody's hallucinating
What if
different
everyone's
things
hallucinating
simultaneously?
everything, and then none of this is No, I mean, obviously that's not satisfying an answer. And I have enough faith in R07 as an author that it's not everyone's hallucinating all the time. Sadako. Rika-chan went over to Sadako and said a few words of consolation. Sadako angrily refused those words and thrust Rika-chan away.
Nini, come back.
Crying, Sadako walked out into the hallway. After a moment, Rika-chan went after her. I couldn't stop thinking about the words Sadako had spoken while crying. I buried her uncle last night, but she said this morning... Well, that was impossible, wasn't it? I buried him last night, so she couldn't have seen her uncle this morning. What was Sadako? At that point, I heard Mion's cold voice.
Hey, Kei-chan. What did you mean about Sadako's uncle?
Ugh, I said too much. I let my emotions get the better of me.
Rena heard it too. You said Sadako-chan's uncle didn't come home.
Keiichi, if you had just not said anything. Is this his fear for, like, what the worst case scenario would have been? What is... My brain's going a mile a minute trying to figure out what the hell is happening here, and I have to accept that with what I have in the middle of the scene while it's happening is not enough for me to figure this out, and I need to just finish the damn scene so I can...
Why? Why didn't he come home? That's strange. Sadako-chan's uncle was right there this morning, wasn't he? So why would you say he didn't come back? Come back. Kei-chan, you've been saying weird things for a while.
Unless this is also part of it? Unless them playing like his uncle, like her uncle is still there is part of the... And Sadako is playing up the waterworks because she has to? And then this is still more of the just they are ride or die?
Police show up to the house, and there's just Mion with a false mustache on, imitating the voice of Sadako's mean uncle. And the cops are just like, all right, this checks out.
This checks out. Well, I say. Suddenly, Mion and Rena started to speak in strange and creepy voices. What were they doing? What were they saying?
Kei-chan, is it somehow inconvenient for you for Sadako's uncle to be around?
No, what are you talking about? Of course it would be better if Sadako's uncle wasn't here.
Yep, that's true, of course. If only he weren't here, right?
Something here wasn't right. Next thing I knew, Mion and Rena were smiling thinly, and their eyes were dark and muddy in a way I'd never seen before. And as our eyes met, that mud even seemed to fill the air.
Sadako's uncle is an awful person, no doubt. I think we'd all be better off with him gone, just as much as you do. But he's here. There's nothing we can do, right?
Nothing we can do. Something's wrong. Something's clearly wrong here. What the hell was happening? After a moment, a chilly liquid-like feeling as though my blood had been mixed with sorbet crawled up my spine. No choice. I mean, of course there isn't, but then Sadako will never.
If there's no choice, what would you do?
Ugh, Rena was trying to prompt me to say more. There really was no choice, so I killed him. I killed him to protect Sadako. That's,
Leave him alone. I think things will resolve themselves soon enough. Sadako-chan said her uncle was here, so he's here. He was here yesterday, and he's here today. She said so it's fine, right? Right?
She said so. Yeah, okay. Now they're emphasizing... Okay, so now they're emphasizing that, yeah, that's the story. Her uncle's there, so it's fine, right? Mion and Rena were speaking unbelievably dismissively. They'd be talking like that. Mion and Rena, they were my friends and were seriously worried about Sadako's abuse, weren't they? They would never blurt out something like this. And I definitely killed Sadako's uncle, so no matter what Sadako or anyone else says, I wouldn't acknowledge it because him being alive was impossible. There's no way he was alive. It was impossible. And yet, since Sadako herself said he was here, then he was alive. They didn't know why or how, but suddenly Mion and Rena were at my side, standing there silently.
Let's go home, Kei-chan. After we leave, Rena wants to go treasure hunting for the first time in a while. Mi-chan is coming too. Kei-chan, you should come along. Of course, you're not allowed to refuse.
If words could freeze blood, then there was no doubt they would have frozen me solid. I could hear it, a strange sound like a layer of thin ice spreading, emanating from every joint in my body. With them closely at my sides, we left the school, as if they were police officers taking me away. They're trying to get him somewhere so they can explain to him, okay, dude, you're a little bit thick, but that's fine. Let's... Because my first reaction is like, okay, if they really are just like going to bat for him, why would they take the time to tell each other and get each other on the same page and not tell him? And they're like, okay, they haven't had the time yet. So they're like, hey, we're going to go treasure hunting. And then making sure there are no microphones anywhere. Keiichi, you dumb shit. They talked about silly things the entire way home like they always did, but they always stood at my sides as if to prevent me from escaping. This was strange. Everything about this day was strange. It's been strange ever since the previous night. My back had been strange ever since killing Sadako's uncle. That creepy meeting with Takano-san was only the beginning. That insane night was still continuing. It still hadn't ended.
What's wrong, Kei-chan? Why did you suddenly stop?
Oh, sorry, it's nothing. When I stopped, it was distant, but I definitely heard them. An extra set of footsteps. That was proof. Proof that insane night hadn't ended. Mion left where she usually did, and we finally came to my house.
Okay, Keiichi-kun, wait here for me. Rena will come to pick you up soon.
What was it? She was inviting me along on one of her oversized garbage treasure hunts at the dam site, right? Why now? Mion coming along was strange too. Mion may have accepted Rena's little hobby, but she hated fishing through garbage, so she'd never come with her before. The location specifically being the dam site was a little creepy. The dam construction site was completely outside the flow of everyday life. So remote that no one ever went there unless they thought to in particular. No one lived there, and there were no lights. And so at night it got dark very quickly. I was being forcibly invited there. There was no reason I had to fear Rena and Mion. Besides, wouldn't the trouble I'd make by refusing them be a pain to deal with? And that way it didn't seem like going treasure hunting with them was a bad idea. But that insane night was continuing. Haven't the sirens of instinct been wailing in my mind for a while now? Warning me that Rena and Mion were strange. That I needed to be cautious. The warning sirens were so freaking loud, it felt like my head would split in two. Oh, Rena. I actually have something to do today.
Something to do? Like what?
Like what? It's just I have something to do, okay?
If you had something to do, why didn't you say it while Mi-chan was here? I already told her to meet us at the dam site before we split up.
Rena was smiling, but her words made her discomfort clear. I'm sorry, I just kind of missed the opportunity to say so.
Really?
You're lying, aren't you? You just made that up now, you liar. That's what her eyes said to me. My head hurts. I might have a cold. I wanted to get it checked and get some medicine.
Really?
That wasn't really a lie. My head did hurt a little bit, so I wasn't lying. She couldn't figure out if my head hurt or not just by looking at it.
Then I guess that's that.
After staring me in the eyes for a few moments, she fired a sharp, needle-like stare at me. The tension in my body loosened and I felt like my knees might buckle.
If you're going to the clinic, then you should go soon. Sometimes they close early.
Thank you. I'll do that.
Make sure you go, okay? To the hospital.
I will.
Go, for real.
I will. Seemed like Rena had realized that I was going to refuse her invitation for a while now. With how serious she looked, she might actually call the clinic later to make sure I went. I couldn't say anything careless. Lying about getting checked out was just an excuse to decline her request in the first place. It didn't matter whether I actually went. Yeah, I'll go. If you want, I can bring you the bill tomorrow.
Oh, that would be good. Be sure to bring it, okay? Rena will look at it then.
Another tingle started crawling up my back. There was no ignoring it. Rena and Mio must have been monitoring my movements. This wasn't normal. Far from it. All of it was insane. Do that, Keiichi. We will have to make sure that you don't accidentally blow the whole thing before we get a chance to catch you up to speed. It's just like Chapter 1. It's just like Chapter 1 where they're trying to bring him in on it and he just won't hear them out. Because he's got the, oh god, I can hear footsteps behind me ball. I did what I did because I wanted my peaceful life back, but what on earth was all this? It was far from peaceful. Something had gone mad, leaving the world out of order. With the other Keiichi Maebara, with those creepy footsteps I've been hearing, with Rena and Mion acting so curious, and above all, with him being alive. Where was I? Hinamizawa village, Shishibone. I knew that much. Was this really the Hinamizawa I knew? Hey, Keiichi Maebara. Where is this? There's the recontextualization of him talking to himself. For a while, I've been kind of thinking, like, how do they recontextualize him talking to himself? And it's him talking to this other version of himself that he thinks is living the life he wants. What the fuck, man? God, this fucks me up. I asked, whipping around before the front door, to face the one who'd been following in my wake all day. No one would have been there, of course. Keiichi Maebara, huh? That's what I just called him, called the one who had been trailing behind me this whole time, that shadowy presence always clinging to me like it was constantly watching for the opportunity to change places. Footsteps always following me was another impossibility. It couldn't have been a ghost, so it was just impossible. So the strangeness must have been my ears, my head, or Hinamizawa. Everything I could see was this exact same Hinamizawa I knew so well, and that gave me the creeps. Eventually, I decided to actually go to the clinic. I really didn't want to go outside, but a stronger feeling than that desire was the fear Rena might actually be keeping an eye on me to see if I went to the hospital. Before I went to the clinic, there was something I wanted to make sure of. It was at school. Pretended I'd forgotten something. I was going back to the classroom to pick it up. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, I was overwhelmed by paranoia. I was just going to the classroom, but I hated it so much, having to be so careful to fake it. After carefully verifying that no one was watching, I went to the locker. Yes, Satoshi's locker. I committed the crime with the bat I found in this locker, Satoshi's bat, and then I threw the bat into the swamp, which meant the bat shouldn't have been inside. But, what if the bat was still in here? It was a very dreadful, incomprehensible idea, but if it was true, it would explain a lot. If the bat was in here, then yesterday's events would have all been a delusion. I hadn't killed anyone and I'd gone to the festival. I had a great time rampaging about with everyone, and proof that Keiichi Maebara was really me. Proof that I was only under some strange assumption that I had killed Sadako's uncle. Proof that it had all been a wild fantasy. That would explain everything. Nothing happened yesterday. I had just gone mad, unable to separate my shocking, uncle-killing dream from reality. That would explain everything. If the bat was here, would I be able to accept that reality? If it was here, nothing will have changed. If it was here, it would just mean that I'd gone crazy. If it was here, that means that I wasn't at all subtle about what my murder weapon was going to be, and Mion had the foresight to replace it. Preparing myself for the worst, I opened the locker door. I was actually scared of opening it slowly, so I threw it open with a bang. And just like the first time, the choking scent of smell and sweat like stale towel came flowing out. There was a baseball uniform, and some miscellaneous other things like notebooks. There was also a shoe pouch. And as for the bat, it wasn't here. It was how I left it when I took the bat out. Okay, so they are covering for him. All right. Okay. We're back in... Okay, we're back on terra firma. We were... It was rough sailing for a while here, but I feel like we're back on terra firma now. Someone edit all of our Higurashi Let's Play to Higurashi, but only the times when SK says, what the fuck? Or only the times where SK is too confused to accept what is going on. There was no doubt yesterday really happened. Now that it wasn't lunatic, I felt relieved. At the same time, if I wasn't the crazy one, then Hinamizawa was. And that was evidence of reality I found just as difficult to accept. There was a noise somehow creeping into everything I saw, and the world was losing a tiny bit of color. So what did I know about last night now? That I made sure the bat wasn't there, I didn't need to be here anymore. Shall I go, for real, to the hospital? It was my first time going to the hospital, but from what I heard, it wasn't far from school. Okay, yeah, so that is different as well, because you had been there earlier in Chapter 1. My mom had told me where it was. A big, easy-to-see road went straight there. Went past the shopping street, made a turn. Wasn't overly hard to spot the sign with Irie Clinic written on it. There was one other person, an older man, there in the air-conditioned waiting room. Went up to the counter and told them it was my first time here. Man behind the counter glanced at the clock and said there would be a short wait. It was almost 5. Clinic hours would be ending soon. So I sat in this unfamiliar waiting room, isolated from everyone, and let myself feel the cool air. I actually felt relieved. What should I tell the doctor when he comes? I could tell him I had a cold, but I was the very picture of health. Actually, I wanted him to check my head. I wanted someone to confirm for me whether I was really sane or not. Oh no, but the doctors... But the doctor is gonna...
The doctor's gonna what?
Because Mio isn't here anymore. So the doctor's gonna be Mr. Irie. The doctor's gonna be Coach. That's not who Keiichi wants to see right now.
Is it not?
Coach seems to have really weird... I don't know. Coach would be another person who would have some idea of what Keiichi was doing. I doubt that's who he wants to talk to right now. Oh, and I think this might be Coach saying this part too.
Keiichi Maebara-san, please come into the examination room.
Huh? The voice from the other side of the examination curtain. I thought I'd heard it somewhere before. You
Hello?
get 3 outfits?
I get 3 outfits.
What the fuck? That's not... How important are you to this story? If you
I wear a little vest under my lab coat.
I noticed
it's weird.
That. That's very dapper, actually. No. You rock it. What the hell? You get 3 outfits?
At least.
What the hell, man? That's pretty great. All right.
Hello. This is the first time we've seen each other here.
Coach, you were a doctor? Now that you mention it, he did seem to know his way around when he was looking at my shoulder in the nurse's office. Makes sense if he was actually a doctor. Come to think of it, our teacher called him Irie-sensei, but didn't she?
Well, yes, I'm more or less a doctor here. Doctors have it really good, you know? You get to see and touch all that young, silky smooth skin.
Okay, so I'm leaving. Actually, I'll just live with being delusional. That sounds fine.
Yes, that's for the best. I could steal their agency with a suspicious injection and have them be my personal maids.
Are you Mio somehow? just... Fuck, man.
Higurashi, once you realize Mio is bigender.
Shit! Oh, no! Oh, thank you very much. Just seeing that made my cold go away. I'll be leaving now. Polite bow.
Whoa, wait. Maebara-san. A joke. It was a joke. Come, sit down and let me take a look at you. I'll need to use my stethoscope, so show me your silky smooth chest, Maebara-san.
For some reason, I felt really relieved. After that insane night, as much as I thought everything had gone crazy, Coach was here doing the same thing he always did. And I was very
already
happy for
crazy. And that makes me an anchor of normalcy somehow.
Yep.
You don't seem to have a cold. Actually, those scrapes and cuts all over you seem to be the most painful thing. Don't tell me you were playing in the bushes with short sleeves and shorts. I mean, I can't say for sure you haven't been infected with tetanus.
I was chasing that man last night. I kept being scraped by bits of trees. Didn't realize I had so many cuts.
You wouldn't want to get the lockjaw. You went a little too crazy at the festival yesterday.
And that's why whenever you're running through the woods, you always wear long sleeves and long pants.
You're chasing your next victim through the woods.
You're chasing your next victim through... Or when you're running from actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. One of the two.
Enjoy that while you're young.
Once again, I apparently went to the festival. Coach, did you go too? To the festival?
Yes, of course I did. I may be a doctor, but I'm also on the Watanagashi Executive Committee.
Good to know. Did you see me there? This coach was the same coach I'd always known, and felt like I could trust him more than my weird friend, so I asked.
Well, actually, I was drinking in the main tent with the chairman and the others the whole time. I didn't go out to see the festival at all. I don't think I saw you.
Oh, fair.
That was a strange question. Perhaps you didn't sleep well last night. You can't do that. You have to sleep and eat well to grow up fine.
Coach let out a laugh. He didn't laugh in an unnatural way like Mion and Rena did. Coach was all right. He was the coach from the world I knew. He wasn't someone from this abnormal world. Well, this might seem a little weird to you, but I want you to hear me out without laughing.
Yes, go ahead. I greatly welcome any shy, bashful worries you might have as you come into puberty.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Are you okay?
What?
Just some of Coach's lines are absolutely awful.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Woo! Then again, I also had to read Fuminori's lines and Saya, so...
Yeah.
Good God. Could it be possible that I have an identical twin? Coach hadn't expected that question at all and couldn't say anything for a moment, but then he smiled calmly and quietly answered.
This is just superstition, but I've heard before that everyone has two other people in the world who look just like them.
Doppelgangers, huh?
If there was, I'd certainly like to meet him, though. Also, there are...
Wait, hold on. Why would you want to meet your clone? What could you possibly want to do with your clone?
I'm a doctor. I know there are exactly two things you can do with your clone. You learn this day one in medical school.
The day one. Oh, man. You know, we're making a reference to a video sketch from a decade and a half ago on a website that is, for all intents and purposes, defunct, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Also, there are plenty of fairy tales where a person's double appears. The German ones about doppelgangers are probably the most famous.
Doppelgangers?
Yes, they look exactly like another person. Apparently, they herald misfortune, and if you meet one, you're sure to die soon. I think that's how it went.
When you meet them, huh? You're sure to die soon. The story ended directly in death, plain and simple, and it made my spine tingle. Coach wasn't saying it to scare me, though. He was just offering a casual anecdote, but that made it feel all the more real. You ever heard of one of those things showing up in Hinamizawa?
What? Well, I can't say that I have.
Unless you count Shion.
Oh, yeah, Shion's a doppelganger.
And Threon.
Yeah, I did say everybody has two 2 doubles that look exactly
oh my God,
like them.
3-owned confirmed.
3-owned confirmed.
3-owned confirmed. If there is a 3-owned, though. But hear me out. If there is a 3-0,
Just wait till we hit chapter 8, and this is the line of dialogue that cracks it wide open.
Yep. Just why? It was 3-0 on the grassy knoll the whole time. Coach must have thought he was being teased, so he laughed in an exaggerated way. But when I didn't smile along with him, his laughter steadily grew fainter. I'm sorry, well, I was sort of being serious.
No, I apologize for laughing. Was there something you were worried about?
I wondered if I should tell him, and then after resolving myself one final time, I slowly spoke. I didn't go to the festival yesterday.
Is that right? Well, there will be one next year, and then you can...
That's not what I meant. I didn't go to the festival, but according to everyone else, I was there. Could that even be possible? Keiichi, they're ride or die for you, and you're... Wait, well, can medical... As long as he doesn't admit to murdering someone, can a medical professional disclose that? I don't think so.
Oh, absolutely. I am, like, so certain that if you are, like... If you're like, yeah, by the way,
As long as he
this
doesn't...
suspicious incident, I'm connected to it.
Oh, I...
Like...
Yeah. After blinking his eyes in amazement, Coach thought seriously about what I was trying to say, and he answered, choosing his words carefully.
Let me make sure I have this straight. Maebara-kun, you went to the Watanagashi festival but don't remember it. Am I right?
I was trying to say something completely different, but I suppose any sane person would come to that conclusion. That night, Keiichi Maebara was actually at the festival, but I was saying I didn't go. That obviously meant any my memories of the going there had failed me. That was absolutely impossible. That vivid act I had committed during the downpour couldn't possibly have been an illusion. The scrapes on my body prove it, as does the fact the bat wasn't in the locker. That's not it, Coach. I really didn't go to the festival.
Please don't take offense, Maebara-san. Have you ever had an experience where you were suddenly somewhere unfamiliar and you couldn't remember why?
No, and I didn't lose my memories or anything, because while the festival was going on, I was definitely doing something else. It wasn't like I was asleep or unconscious or anything.
You're certain you were doing something else. I know I'm being awfully rude, but are you sure you're not mistaken?
I know I'm not. My memories are clear as day, and they were real.
During the festival, you weren't at the shrine and you were doing something somewhere else. Can you definitely prove that?
Well, that's right. Thinking it through brought me to this. There was only one way to prove I really wasn't at the festival yesterday, and that was to show that there was no doubt I had killed her uncle. Coach saw me struggling to answer, and his eyes looked a little cold. I guess they would. After all, from Coach's perspective, I was just a weirdo sputtering nonsense.
Would you like to lay down? Maybe you should relax and take it easy for a bit.
Sorry, I didn't really come here to lay down.
You seem to be a little worked up. Why don't I give you a sedative that'll let you sleep for a bit? That way...
I'm not being strange! I realized Coach was treating me like a deviant, so I raised my voice.
I apologize if I've offended you. So please, calm down.
I definitely didn't go to the festival. It's the truth.
I understand. So please, calm down, take a deep breath.
No, you don't understand at all. Coach was stunned and stared in stupefaction.
I do understand, Maebara-san. You didn't go to the festival yesterday. Is that right? I believe you.
Coach jotted down a brief note in his records. He was writing it in German, so that his patient wouldn't know what it said, but I can make a good guess as to what he wrote. You won't believe me until I tell you everything I was doing at the time, will you?
No, I believe you.
And he speaks German, huh? Good to know.
Please, sit down.
Before I sat, I tilted my head back a little. The blood on my face all drained out, and I quieted down. And after taking a deep breath, I made sure that I was calm now. It would have been possible for me to be at the festival because, at the time, I was... Should I tell him or should I not? I really didn't want to go on living like this, feeling this horrible. And I said them those final fatal words. Couldn't even keep it together for a day, Keiichi. You clearly aren't cut out for the murder in life.
I mean, to be fair, so far he's done pretty good at the murdering life. It's the getting away with it life that he's kind of sucking at.
True. Because at the time, I was killing Sadako's uncle. I could smell the concrete in the room, and I could feel the air around us sharpen, and no one moved. Only the sound of the clock ticking told us time hadn't stopped. With his mouth wide open, Coach even forgot to blink for a little while.
You killed Sadako-chan's uncle.
Yes. It's fine now, Keiichi Maebara. Don't hesitate. Admit it with all your strength. Yes. Last night I did it. I killed him. I spoke clearly and fluidly. I could easily tell Coach to mine had gone completely blank.
Why would you... No, that was a foolish question.
I believed it was the most direct method of saving Sadako, so I carried it out. I don't have any regrets.
I see.
Coach smiled thinly and nodded a bit. So I couldn't have been at the festival. I left the brightness of my house for the darkness of the outside. After that, I dug holes, made phone calls, and I had my hands full. And then I attacked him, killed him, and buried him. It was pouring hard at the time. The festival started that evening, but was suspended due to the rain. There were no gaps in my memories. From the late afternoon until it started to rain, there was no time for me to possibly have gone to the festival. Did it rain, though? Do we know for sure it rained?
Did he imagine rain?
Did he imagine rain? Did anyone else mention it raining?
I mean, he was covered in mud, and Mia was annoyed about getting it in her car.
Yeah, but if we're assuming none of that happened, then that's...
Wait, none of what? How?
If we're assuming, like, did it rain yesterday?
No, none of that. What's the that?
Yeah.
No, what's the that? What is the that? What are we referring to when we say none of that happened? Do you mean that he didn't go kill someone?
None of the events of, that he didn't kill...
Okay, so that none of the events of yesterday happened. That's what I was trying to get out of you.
Sorry. The way you phrased it was not helping me figure out what you meant. But yeah. Huh.
And those wounds, are they from that?
Yes, there's a road through the forest near Sadako's house. I attacked him there, he ran, but I chased him and finally killed him near the road that leads to town.
Is that true?
Killing her uncle, it wasn't some wild fantasy. I could tell Coach didn't believe me. So I spoke slowly, not letting myself grow excited. It's true. I killed him with Satoshi's bat. I threw it in the uncle's motorbike into the swamp. I dug a hole, killed him, buried him, and I did it all by myself.
Sadako-chan's uncle drove past you on a motorbike, did he? Then you predicted he'd do that and just waited?
I assumed he wouldn't be leaving his house that day, so I lied to him over the phone to get him out.
You called him, but your house is so far away from Sadako-chan's. I wouldn't think you'd be able to make it there so soon after calling him.
I used a phone closer to where I was going to attack him, the one at school.
But Maebara-san, it was Sunday. Wouldn't the school have been locked up?
A forest ranger happened to go inside for a bit. I slipped in when I had the chance. And after that, Coach grilled me on a few different things regarding the incident. He made sure to question me carefully, looking for any contradictions in my account.
I'll believe you. What you did yesterday doesn't seem like a dream.
I explained everything, including minor details that only someone who had actually committed the act could explain. I could, of course. It was only yesterday. Coach realized that my story had no expedient coincidences, or too convenient details that would only have existed in a daydream or a delusion, and finally seemed to want to believe me. So do you still think I went to the festival and lost my memory? Coach slowly shook his head. But everyone in class, they said I was there yesterday. Is that even possible?
No, it's not. Your classmates probably mistook you for someone who looked very similar. Then, given how group psychology works, everyone just assumed that you had been at the festival.
They couldn't have mistaken me. Mion and all the rest of they were spending time with Keiichi Maebara. It was just much more than just having mistaken someone else for me, but saying that out loud would just confuse Coach. He spoke to me in whispered tones.
Do you feel guilty at all?
It didn't sound like he was criticizing me. And even if he had, I would have flatly said the same thing. I don't. I did it so I could return to the peaceful days he stole from us. I plan to forget all about having killed him and live my life as usual. When Sadako's smile, regular smile returns, the one from before he showed up, everything will finally be over.
Any chance that someone witnessed the crime?
I don't believe so. If someone had seen me, I would have been arrested already.
I am a doctor. My job is to save lives, so I cannot make any statements to the effect of condoning the taking of another's life. So instead, I will say this.
Coach slowly rose and placed a hand on my shoulder.
For saving Sadako-chan, I thank you.
Coach's eyes started shedding warm tears, and when I looked at him, I started to feel some tears of my own. I didn't know what I was crying for, and so for a little while the two men in the room fought back their tears. But it's strange.
What is?
I'm sure I killed him, and yet he seems to have returned home alive. Coach's expression immediately sharpened.
Depending on the situation, there are many ways that mere unconsciousness can look like real death to a layperson. Do you think it's possible he was just knocked out?
I didn't check for a pulse, but I'm pretty sure I did him in.
Can I ask you to reproduce the situation in which you attacked him, Maebara-san?
Coach rolled up a Health and Fitness Week poster nearby and offered it to me to represent the bat. I may have been lost to the motions of a beast that night. I remembered in detail the number of times I swung the bat, the angles I had swung from, and the force I had applied. Using Coach as a stand-in for the uncle, I reproduced them over one by one. When he tripped and fell, I bashed him on top of the head like this. And when I did, it felt different from the other strikes. I thought I'd cracked his skull. Coach was calmly analyzing this information, using the places I'd struck the situation at hand to find out what state the uncle's body had been in. I wasn't totally sure he was dead, so I hit him a few more times after he fell.
Did he react at all?
At first I sort of felt his body jolting with every hit, but eventually that stopped too and he didn't react at all. Coach folded his arms and said a few times, and then he spoke.
He's dead, there's not much doubt about it.
He didn't just look like he was?
I can't say very much from just your story, Maebara-san, but I think it's almost certain. Besides, you buried the corpse in the mud, and that took you quite a bit of time, right? Let's say it took you 30 minutes. That would mean he was buried under the muddy water for those 30 minutes. If you don't breathe for that long, your brain will die no matter what.
I mean, even ignoring how hard I hit him, he would have definitely died while I was burying him?
That's right. It's impossible to stay alive buried underground for 30 minutes.
Impossible. You're right. But Sadako, she says he's alive. Coach Doctor just gave a stamp of approval that he was dead for sure. That made it seem all the more unfair that he could still be among the living.
Maebara-san, this is a really horrible idea, but is it possible that the person you killed wasn't actually her uncle?
Huh? He's right, that could be why. I cleared up the inconsistency of my definitely having killed someone, but him still being alive. There's no way. I mean, we were both at Sadako's house when she was bringing his alcohol inside, and there was a man who stuck his face out the window to look. It was him, right? That was Sadako's uncle, right? Keiichi! God damn it, I've been going to bat for you this whole time saying you definitely gotta look at Sadako's uncle, and you only gotta look at one of his friends?
Yes, you're not wrong. It was that man.
Could she have had more than one uncle or something?
Not one that I've ever heard of. It's just him.
Could you tell me what he looked like?
Well, his height first. He was about 175 centimeters, maybe a little taller.
In order to eliminate the worst possibility that I'd killed someone else, Coach began to thoroughly compare what the man in his mind looked like with me, with what I told him the person I killed looked like, but no matter how in-depth my description went, none of the characteristics differed. The uncle's traits, according to Coach, were all exactly the same as the person I'd killed. Those traits were all extremely vague, and they weren't particularly distinct at a glance.
Could you... well, is there anything else about him that would let us identify him for sure? Oh.
Is there anything else about him that would let us identify him for sure?
Now that you mention it, I've never seen it, but I believe Sadako-chan once said a long time ago that he had a tattoo of a tiger or something on his back.
A tattoo? That was really important. Not everyone had a tattoo. If I found a tiger tattoo on the back of the man's corpse, it would be proof I'd killed the right one. At that moment, though, there was one other thing that would verify this. To go to Sadako's house and see for myself the uncle that had returned home despite having died. That was far more terrifying than digging up the body and looking at its back. Without even looking at the tattoo, I knew for sure the person I'd killed had been Sadako's uncle. I cracked his head open and killed him, and he'd gone back home. There wasn't any misunderstanding or even the shadow of a doubt in my mind about having killed him. And yet, it was impossible for him to exist. Kind of like how Keiichi Maebara had been at the festival despite it being impossible. That small commonality made me feel as though a faint but bizarre force was permeating this insane Hinamizawa. Wonder what on earth could have happened.
I wonder what on earth could have happened. Despite you not going to the festival and killing Sadako-chan's uncle, you were at the festival and the uncle you killed is alive.
None of this makes any sense. When I look at everything that way, it's almost like I'm sure I'm just having a nightmare and there's no killer at all. But it's the truth, the sensation as I use my own hands, that bat to bash him again and again, it was no illusion. Coach let out a slow sigh and then, after looking at the clock, got up.
Let's go over this all a little more seriously. If you'll excuse me, I'll go put on some tea. Clinic's about to close after all. I need to let the other employees leave.
Coach stood up and went out into the hallway, leaving me alone. The clock was about to strike 6. At the festival, the uncle I killed was alive. Had I really committed murder yesterday? The only whisper of a fact that proved it happened was the absence of that bat from Satoshi's locker. In any case, I was glad the coach had taken my nonsense seriously. I had just confessed to murder after all. Normally that would frighten a person away. But Coach didn't run. He cried with me. I was glad that he did. Like so, my tension smoothly melted away, and I suddenly realized I really had to urinate. Thought to use the restroom while Coach had stepped out. It was one across from the waiting room. As soon as I left the room, I saw Coach and 2 male doctors wearing white clothing standing in the shadows of the hallway nearby. I didn't particularly intend to eavesdrop or anything, but I was quite surprised upon noticing how uneasy they seemed. I hid behind the wall and quietly listened in. It seemed like Coach was giving directions to the 2 of them.
Black tea, I'll make some. Oh.
Black tea? I'll make some.
Mix in the sedative you think best for the occasion. Cover the taste with milk and sugar.
He may grow suspicious of the sudden onset of drowsiness. Possible he may get agitated and become violent.
We will handle that. How many male staff are still here?
1 mountain dog, including us 3. What was all this? I think I was already agitated despite what Coach said. What was it? Was it just a casual conversation? It was only sounding unbelievable to me? Coach said he would bring some black tea and left the room. And then in the shadows he was telling his subordinates to put some kind of sleeping powder in the tea? 1 mountain dog? Plus they were getting extra help in case I thought the sudden sleepiness was suspicious and started getting violent? Hey, wait, Keiichi Maebara, calm down. Calm down. There's no way something this stupid could be happening. He was genuinely listening to my story, and he even cried with me. I thought there was the one person in Hinamizawa who would understand. This was...
There are signs of fabrications or falsehoods, and his memories of yesterday in particular are completely confused. He can no longer tell truth from falsehood. It's quite similar to multiple personality disorder, but as for how quickly this mental disorder emerged, it's just not normal. Maybe it's inborn, or perhaps there were signs of it before he moved here? I'd like to take a look at any records of him staying at a mental hospital before he moved here. In any case, I want him to take a quiet nap.
The 2 doctors nodded deeply.
I should probably contact Maebara-kun's parents, too, though I can't think of what to tell them. Please find his home phone number for me.
My eyes, still moist, began to shed tears once more. This was too cruel. I really thought he had actually understood and had believed what I told him. But now from the other side of that wall, he was bluntly treating me like a crazy person. I believed you. I let down my guard because I thought you were the only ally I had left after that insane night. Was that a lie? All that about thanking me on Sadako's behalf? You're just pretending in order to keep me placated. Ugh. My tears fell to the floor in frustration. I was an idiot. I was such an idiot for believing that bastard. I heard footsteps approaching the doctors. A man in a dress shirt with no tie came running up.
Dr. Irie, it's terrible. They found Takano-san. Takano-san? Wait, where? Well, apparently they discovered her burned corpse in the mountains in Gifu. She's dead? Takano-san?
The men, all surprised, exchanged glances. Dead? Takano-san? Wait, so then does that mean when I cursed her, wishing for her death, that wish was granted?
What do you mean burned corpse? Was it an accident?
According to the statement... Oh,
Go for it.
from the prefecture police department, the possibility is extremely high she was murdered. As I cried, I laughed quietly. That serves you right. That serves you right! If I hadn't run into that woman, my murder would have been perfect. But she just had to come driving up to me and tried to coerce me like that. Regretted not having killed her on the spot, but now she was dead anyway. I cursed my wish for her demise. It was fulfilled. It serves you right. It serves you right!
Risa-san died and Takano-san died. What on earth could be happening in Hinamizawa? Don't tell me that this was all Oyashiro-sama's curse for this year.
Risa? Was that the name of...
The victim from the beginning, I think?
Was that... I thought her name was Ritsuko. Did we get a name? Did we get a name for... I think we did at some... that's got to be the person from earlier. Rina Mamiya, also known as Ritsuko, who worked as a hostess bar Blue Mermaid, owned by someone connected to the Sonozakis. Risa. Risa could be a nickname for Rina Mamiya ne Ritsuko. Like hell, albeit let the curse be real, Coach said. Everyone present just nodded as Coach cursed at no one in particular. Maybe it wasn't Oyashiro-sama, but this was definitely a spell, a curse. I wished for her to die, so she did! This wasn't just a coincidence, and she died because I wished for it. You'll die next, Coach! You betrayed me. You pretended to believe me, but deep down you thought I was a madman. You looked down on me with all that pity in your eyes.
For now, get the black tea ready. I'll bring it inside. I don't think he'd let anyone besides me be alone with him.
Shit! What do I do? Keiichi Maebara? This time I heard the voice of a nurse.
Dr. Irie, oh, there you are. You have a phone call. I'm a little busy at the moment, so please tell them I'll call back. Who is it from? Mr. Oishi from the Okinomiya Police Department. What bad timing. All right, I'll answer it.
Coach left to go answer the phone. The other men headed towards the room with the teapot to make the black tea like Coach had ordered them to. Fortunately, Coach having to take that phone call meant there would be extra time for me to act. I had to decide what to do now. Would I let him make me drink the sedative-infused tea or be held down and thrown into a mental hospital? Nothing would come of starting a brawl here. They had more people anyway, and they were all bigger than I am. If it came to a fight, I didn't stand a chance in hell. If I couldn't win against them, then there was only one thing left to do. To run. Adrenaline suddenly rushed into my brain and my body and started to move with keen instinct like it had on that night. My surface temperature quickly cooled, and the transmission routes between my cells enlarged. Using 360-degree visual information, I searched for an escape route. I would open the window behind me. Outside was a parking lot. There were no cars. A little beyond there was the bicycle I'd taken to get here. I determined that this would be the quickest method of escape. I approached the window swiftly, but with little sound to raise as little suspicion as I could. The speed and silence of a shadow, like I had had on that night I chased her uncle. I unlocked the window and opened it up, and a cool evening breeze wafted in. I stuck my head out and looked over the parking lot again. No one in sight. No need to hesitate. I quietly crawled outside and closed the window behind me. I held my breath and listened carefully. No one seemed to have realized that I'd run. I looked around, and then I jumped onto my bicycle and zoomed away. The pedals clattered under the force. Had my bike always creaked like this? Did the pedals always whine every time I pushed down on them? My bike wasn't the only one crying, though. My tears fell as the wind cut through them. They rode the breeze and scattered behind me. I hate this! I'm not the crazy one. Hinamizawa is! How dare you treat me like a madman? I already die! Just fucking die already! I believed you. I believed you. I'd gone to the hospital in order to escape Rena and Mion's invitation, but the reality that was waiting for me had been too cruel. Who was insane, me or Hinamizawa? Or was the answer something else? I started having trouble breathing. I didn't have any clue what was happening anymore. The loud chirps of the Higurashi were irritating me. Or even the Hinamizawa Higurashi I knew so well calling into the wind. No, that wasn't quite it. They weren't calling. They were crying. The pained wailing of those lost in some kind of rhythm. In another world, no longer able to return to their own sunlight. I didn't do all that to end up in a world like that. Actually, about this time, I might have been having fun with everyone else. Sadako would have gotten her smile back after realizing her uncle would never come home. And she might have shown us to us at our first club meeting in a while. That was the kind of world that I wished for. So what was this? Why did I end up in such a strange, ghastly world? Someone I'd killed was living like normal, and I had enjoyed myself at the festival despite not being there. I don't want it. I don't want this strange world. When did it start to go wrong? When? No matter how much I thought about it, I never understood. I rode swiftly and returned to my home. It had begun to rain during my journey back, and just like yesterday, I was now soaked, but I didn't care about something so trivial right now. The pain I felt in my heart that Coach, the one person I trusted, was acting so cruelly was far worse. Did I have no allies in Hinamizawa anymore? With the naive thought that I at least wanted my parents to side with me, I stepped up to the front door. But wait, Keiichi. It'll be dark soon, and there's something you want to check, right? Yes, there is. I wanted to dig up the man's corpse and get a good look at his back. If there was a tiger tattoo there, I would know beyond a doubt it was Sadako's uncle. That long night wouldn't end until I was certain. If this insane world was all reparation, a divine punishment, then I needed to make certain whether I had been successful enough to even deserve to pay that price. I went to the storage room again and got the shovel. Been washed in the rain, but the paint was peeling, making it look unsightly. I never ever wanted to touch this thing again. The sensation of it in my hands was totally different from the night before. There was a ruthless coldness about it. Yeah, it would be dark soon, so I'd need the lantern too. It would be extra little bit of light from the streetlights, but it would get extremely dark. I thought I'd put the lantern here, but I suddenly noticed it wasn't anywhere to be found. And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. Of course, on that night I hadn't brought the lantern back with me. I'd left it at the place I'd buried the body. If I didn't go get it very soon, it would get very dark. And then not only would I be unable to find the spot I buried the corpse, but I wouldn't even be able to find the lantern itself. And if that happened, it was all over. I need to hurry. In order to fit the shovel in the basket in the front of my bike, I needed to twist and disassemble it. Looked like there was dirt in the joints, and no matter how hard I pushed, it didn't want to come apart. After a strenuous effort, I realized I couldn't get it apart, so I decided to hold it in one hand and ride my bike with the other. Why not just hold it across the handlebars, like do a big grasp, right? The downpour soaking me through and a shovel in one hand, and riding one-handed, it was as if I'd returned to that night. Where did the rain come from? Return was the wrong word. It was more like that night had never ended. The pain of the raindrops striking me were no different from then. The thing that was different was Hinamizawa. The world and nothing else. The rain clouds were already making it dark, and now was about time to see the sunset. I could tell it would only get rapidly darker. The straight road leading into town, in the middle of it, that should be where I buried it. Yes, it was near that streetlight. On that night, too, the water from the downpour was splashing down from the streetlight's overhang like a waterfall. The pouring rain was exactly the same as it had been that night, and thus it brought my memories into focus. I left my bike in the brush and stepped into the forest, the ground already soaked with mud. Where had I buried him? The darkness, the shadows, the water, the mud. Everything was the same. Think! And then I spotted the lantern by a fallen moss-covered tree. That's right, I left it right there. If I left the lantern there, then I would have buried him over here. The sensation of standing in the sludge, my feet remembered the spot better than my eyes did. I plunged my shovel into the ground. It's hard. It wasn't here. I just dug it up so it should have been softer. I stuck my shovel down in a few spots to test what they feel like. One of them clearly felt deeper. called where the lantern was, the trees and things were in relation to each other, and knew that it had to be here. Under here slept that man's corpse. There would definitely be the tattoo of a tiger on his back, but if it wasn't there, then I had made a horrible mistake and killed someone completely unrelated instead. I'd be more dazed at the fact that Sadako's uncle wasn't dead, than I would regret having gotten someone else mixed up in this. If this insane world was punishment for the sin of committing murder, I wouldn't be able to accept it until I killed Sadako's uncle for good. And then without any fear, I'd attack him again, and that time I would kill him for sure. But what if the tattoo was there? That would mean I'd killed her uncle. That'd be terribly strange, wouldn't it? If I'd killed him for sure, then who was the uncle at Sadako's house at this very moment? That's impossible.
So, call it. Tattoo there or not?
Tattoo's there.
Okay.
Yes, he killed Sadako's uncle. Sadako and the rest of them, because Keiichi couldn't keep his fucking mouth shut, are enough ahead of the game. And Sadako's good enough at manipulating her emotions that she would play it up like that. Because that was not Sadako being earnest. That was Sadako playing it up. They've got the lie ready, and have been trying to find the time to get Keiichi in on it, like in Chapter 1. But again, he's too thick-headed to think for a second that things could have gone right. And because he's gone back to the scene of the crime, now any chance of him getting away with it is just gone. I didn't even know anymore what I was using the word impossible to refer to. I've used the word quite a few times today. I had to make the words impossible fit just one thing. What would it be? That much was obvious to me. It would be impossible for this crazy world to be real. I shouted and turned behind me. There was no one there, of course. It hadn't been bothering me for a while, but those footsteps had followed me this entire day. Even just now, an extra set of footsteps had splashed behind me. No one was actually there, no indications of anyone even, but they were there. Who are you? You've been following me ever since I came to this world. That's right. Thinking back, the first time I heard those footsteps was after Takano-san and I had parted. Those footsteps were my welcome into this strange inside-out world. No one could be there. I'd get no response. Whoever it was, they just kept staring at me. It wasn't ominous, just unpleasant. Staring into empty space for a bit as I bathed in the rain, my illogical anger slipped away. My tension loosened and a tired feeling reared its head. I tasted this feeling that night, too. The sudden exhaustion I felt as the tension in my brain loosened. My vision quickly narrowed, and I felt like everything around me had suddenly gotten darker. I couldn't give in to this sensation. I light what little explosives were left in my brain and forced myself to keep going. I needed to dig that man up before my stamina ran out. I needed to see that tattoo on his back. There's the other possibility that Coach is not telling the truth about the tattoo. Maybe he was trying to bait Keiichi into a detail that wasn't there. I think that's something worth thinking about. I caught my suddenly ragged breath and calmed down. And then I stuck the shovel into the soft, muddy ground again. Felt exactly the same as that night. A sense of digging in a hole on the beach with water coming into it with every wave. What day was today? Had I gone back to the night of the Watanagashi? A very strange thought that came to mind tormented me. And given my exhaustion, I didn't think I could manage to hold those thoughts back. Once the hole was deep, all illumination finally faded, blanketing my vision in jet black. It's probably the moment the sun had fully set, too. That night I had feared the worst and gone without using much light. My senses were so strained I could see even in that darkness, but now I didn't have that kind of strength left. I drained everything I had last night, and now the darkness would be lethal. I decided to turn on the lantern. Putting it on the first setting would make it give off a faint light. Even with how little there was, it was enough, and people wouldn't be able to see it from far away in this rain. I grabbed the chilled lantern, turned the dial with a click, set it to the weakest light setting, and turned it on. An uncanny world of silhouettes appeared before me. A complex and strange shadowy world created by the intricate entanglement of trees and branches. I'd only turned on a light. It was like that was all it took to make the world into something else. I let out a quick, tired breath, wiped the liquid, neither rain nor sweat, from my brow, and then I raised the shovel into the air and slammed it into the mud. At that moment, the silhouettes surrounding me ominously all moved at once. inside my head. Something packed in there, something coarse but not hot nor cold, was loudly rushing about. The silhouettes were all around me, looking down at me, and one of them, a silhouette bigger than the other, stepped forward. Good job leading them right to the body, you fucking idiot. Alright, hear me out. What if Keiichi is Satoshi?
Yeah?
What if Keiichi Maebara is Satoshi?
So he's back.
So he's back. He transferred out.
And then he transferred back.
Yep.
Did a year at another school, came back home. That
Yep.
easy.
Yep, sure, that's exactly what happened. Good evening there. The moon sure is beautiful tonight. Oh no! This... Oh, look at me snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
I just love 2 people in a row running into him at night when he absolutely doesn't want to see them and you absolutely can't see the moon, saying the
Yep.
exact same line.
Yep. The coarseness of my brain shot through my whole spine and left me at my waist. The strength of my body all left me through my hips. I crouched down with a splash into the sea of mud I dug myself. Oh, Ishii. Is that really how you address your elders? You'll, have a rough time of that once you become an adult. Wasn't only Oishi, but 5 or 6 of them in a row, men wearing raincoats. I had no inkling that this many people had gotten so close. It was like, once I turned on the lantern, they just appeared there, sliding out of the shadows. Please, don't mind us. Just, think of us as trees in the forest, perhaps. Don't mind them? Yes.
Oh.
Pay no attention to us. Please, continue digging your hole. It's very late and raining very hard, wouldn't you say? You're working pretty fervently. We won't get in your way now. Please, dig to your heart's content. No thank you, I said. When I tried to get up and turn around, 2 men blocked that route. They stood on either side of me and lifted me up with amazing strength, and then threw me into the sea of mud. As I soaked in the mud bath I dug for myself, looked up at the silhouettes looking down at me. Oishi squatted, picked up my shovel and threw it at my feet for me. It bounced loudly off the mud and hit me in the face. Come on now, please. Continue. I couldn't bear the oppressiveness of the silhouettes surrounding me, and slowly I stuck the shovel into the mud again. I felt like I was digging my own grave. I love the music for this part here too. It's this really spacey, kind of not really committed theme, full of like large bouts of just pure static and like, whining notes.
I just hear rain.
You don't hear the little notes going on in the background below it?
No. Oh, now I do. It's really quiet.
It is very quiet. I kept digging. It wouldn't matter whether there was a tattoo or not, because that man's corpse would appear eventually. It was all over. Surrounded on all sides and nowhere to go. But I just couldn't figure out, no matter how much I thought about it. Why were they here? Was it Takano-san? There was only one person who could have made the connection between me and this place. Oh shit, I knew she deserved to die! Stopping so soon, are we? Ugh! Bam! Oishi kicked me in the back, which took me by surprise, sending me flying into the mud. Hurry up and dig, if you would please. You, really should consider the fact that some of us are standing out here in the rain. Fuck you! If you don't like the rain, then just go home. Ah! Oishi kicked some mud into my face. Use your hands, please, not your mouth. Only stage actors do both at once. Isn't that right, boys? The men around him didn't react, not knowing quite whether they should laugh, but when Oishi glared at them, they started mumbling out pained chuckles.
Oh, is she slam dunking theater kids for no reason in the middle of this murder investigation?
Oh man, I do theater though. I like community theater. Just who was this guy? I knew the world had changed after that night, but if I went even further back, didn't it start when this guy showed up? That was when our peaceful days had been taken from us. Ever since he showed up in Hinamizawa, things had been odd. Everyone stopped smiling and the world went crazy. The ground under my feet gradually got harder and heavier. At this point, even I started to think something was odd. I hadn't buried him this deed on that night, had I? My exhaustion peaked and I sat down on the spot. How long do you want me to dig? Kids these days ain't got no stamina. Hey, you. At Oishi's gesture, the men all pulled out their own sinister-looking shovels. I watched to daze one of them grab my collar, dragged me out of the hole, and threw me to the ground. The rest of the men stepped into the hole I dug and started shoveling themselves. And as I stared at them dumbfounded, Oishi sauntered over and squatted down to look at me directly. Keiichi Maebara-san. Is this here a hobby of yours? Digging holes on rainy nights? When I didn't respond, Oishi took one of the tin buckets they were using to bail out the muddy water, scooped up some of it, and splashed the whole thing in my face. Well, don't you know the rain sure is heavy today, too? No matter how wet I get, I still do not understand the appeal. Oishi smiled to himself and scooped up another bucket full of muddy water. I will ask you again. Is digging holes on rainy nights your hobby? Who the hell would have a hobby like that? Splash. Oishi hit me with another bucket full of muddy water. The pebbles in it stung. Will there be something in that hole? I've always liked that story, you know. About the old man who could make plants bloom and the puppet digging in his yard for gold. As he spoke, he ran the bucket through the muddy water again, splashed it in my face again. What kind of treasure is buried down there, huh? Can't you at least give me a hint? If you want to know, then dig on your own time. You fucking pig! I wasn't saying that out loud, but Oishi mercilessly drenched me in muddy water again anyway. Shit! If only you hadn't shown up, the world wouldn't have gone wrong. Ever since you showed up, things have been strange. Sadako got abused by her uncle, I ended up killing him, and the world went crazy. He was how it all began, because of this culprit. He splashed another bucket of mud in my face. My insides were seething with anger. Die, you. You die, too! If I have some strange power to kill someone by cursing them like with Takano-san, then you are dead. It won't be Oyashiro-sama's curse, it'll be mine. I'll curse you, and I'll kill you. Well now, what a rebellious look you are wearing. Why don't we use this opportunity to teach you a thing or two in that regard? We really do live in peace these days. When I was about your age, corporal punishment was the norm for everything. Oishi-san. Oh.
Oishi-san!
One of the men digging raincoats wiped some sweat off and called Oishi over. Oishi tossed the bucket away, then turned around with an evil grin on his face. Yes, now, what is it?
Please look at this!
Acceptance, or maybe resignation. I wanted to say to them, so you blockheads finally found it. Yeah, that's right, I'm the one who killed him. But you're the police, so it isn't your job to figure out who he is, right? Come on, prove to me that it's really Sadako's uncle. What? On Earth?
We think it's an old drain pipe. Seems to be connected to the irrigation channel over there.
Well, now, let's just smash the thing. It ain't being used now, ain't it? The men all exchanged glances, then hesitantly broached another topic.
Oh, Oishi-san, the ground down there is pretty hard. I don't think anything could be deeper than this.
Did we get the location wrong?
No, at first it definitely felt like the place had been dug up before. But after digging so far, the ground suddenly hardened. We think we've gone down further than the hole that was originally dug.
So, then, what does that mean? There was a hole here, and someone done filled it back up? Is that what you're trying to tell me? What? Takano coming right back around to MVP.
Yeah? What makes you say that?
It's like, kids these days don't know how to dispose of a fucking body. God damn it.
So you think she came out here and dug it back up?
What are they talking about? Well, I'm at a loss. Aren't you, Maebara saying? Oishi grabbed my collar and dragged me to the huge hole they dug. The mud inside was like an ocean, and I couldn't see any drain pipe down there. One of the men stirred it with a shovel, letting me hear it clang against something hard. There was no doubt I'd buried him right here, but I hadn't buried him this deep. I didn't dig deep enough to unearth an entire drain pipe. So, then, this man and his corpse. Where was it? Proof. Where's the proof that I'd been successful on that night? It was gone. It was all gone. Then what on earth was I? Was I actually crazy after all? Was I just possessed by the delusion that I had killed someone? That couldn't be. It was the unmistakable truth. It couldn't have been a hallucination. But no. The most important evidence that it hadn't been an illusion, it was all gone. I killed him. I buried him. I had absolute unwavering confidence in that fact. Did I fail to kill him? After I left here, he had started breathing again. Had he started breathing again, crawled out, and gone back to Sadako's house? Was that it? He had come here to see whether he had a tattoo or not. Yet the truth I unearthed was far more than that. Yesterday, what was I killed him. I buried him. There was no doubt. But for some reason, he lived. And he crawled back out. That was impossible, too. I'm so tired of hearing the word impossible over and over. I get it. Dead people don't like to play by the rules here in Inamizawa. Alright then, I'll kill you as many times as I need to. I'll keep killing you. Until you never show your face to Sadako again. Oishi and the others were muttering to each other. Eventually the conversation ended and Oishi came toward me. What did he want to say? What did he want to do? I stiffened, tensing up. And then Oishi just ignored me like I wasn't even there and passed right by me. The other men too, they ignored me and shuffled away. Eventually there was no longer a sign that anyone was around and I returned to my quiet world of silhouettes. The only one left there was me. Only the sound of the pouring rain filled up the silence. Alright, I definitely didn't call that ending. Inquiry request and record of malice. Let's see these. And the achievement we locked is gone. Turned up nothing. What the fuck? Okonomiya Police Station Command Center. Transmission recording. June 20th, 8:08 p.m.
This is Okonomiya Police Station. We read you loud and clear.
Hello, we'd like you look up a license plate for us. Shishibone H4344.
Shishibone H4344. All right. Please give us just a moment to look it up.
Thank you.
Number match, Shishibone H4344. Owner, redacted. Address, redacted. Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. Vehicle make and model, redacted. Theft reports, none. Special mentions, nothing of note.
Okonomiya Security Police to Oishi. We found the license plate from earlier. Oishi, do you read? Oishi, please respond. Am I getting a bad signal? Anyone in Oishi's car, please
Nothing, eh?
Oishi-san wanted a license plate check. Whose car was it?
Someone for the village, a completely average car.
Who was it? If Oishi-san was asking, then it can't be anyone good, right?
Special mentions column is completely blank. No indications related to the S group either. And no demerits on it?
Maybe it passed him on the road and he got mad. That guy isn't the type to forget a grudge.
What the fuck? Was that Mio's car?
I don't know.
Record of malice. He said it smelled. He said the food smelled. He said it smelled because I smelled. He said I smelled because I don't take baths. He said to take a bath 3 times a day because I was a smelly person. He said I had to stay in the bath for a long time, every time. He must be possessed by something too. This is the same thing the man who died had said. Why does he know what that man said before? That much is obvious. The same thing that possessed that man is now possessing him. Can't a sudden earthquake make a big hole in front of the house? If it did, he would definitely go and look into it, and then I would just have to push him in. I won't give in until I get that chance. I won't give in. I won't cry. I won't give in. I won't cry. Ha. Someone is apologizing again.
Those were pretty abstract.
None of this is helpful. Is that what Sadako's thinking?
Maybe.
It appeared someone to be reading pages of that, but what the fuck? The difficulty truly is hard on this one. I don't know that I can make any theories. Well, shit, man, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? Feelings? Concerns? Just letting me stew? I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next time.
Smash that like, comment and subscribe.